When you desire only the truth, you start trying to take shortcuts. When you start taking shortcuts, you might lose sight of the truth. Eventually, you lose your motivation too. This is a quote from Abbacchio's partner and has an overlying theme for the areas in part 5, but this translates into real life too. I'm not saying work smarter, not harder. In the case of part skipping, there's just actually no reason as to why you should be doing so. See, I'm here because Mother's Basement had made a video on JoJo for part 5, a cheat sheet of general events so that we could be led up to what we have now in part 5. Now, let me say this before anything. If you came here to say, I'm going to enjoy this without watching all of the other parts, go ahead. No one is legitimately stopping you from enjoying the anime or any area of fiction. Do what you want. I also don't vouch for anyone trying to stop that either. The video is just here to show you exactly what you're missing out upon if you do. But really, if your whole thing is about getting into something without having time already in the series or not wanting to get invested in it at all, do you really need a primer? The premise of the video is really what bothers me. See, there are many great videos on YouTube that are meant to generalize what happens in anime, but majority of the time, those videos are already made for those that had watched it and want to see how the content creator is going to be taking apart the franchise. The case we have here is the encouragement of blowing through JoJo so that you can get up to where we are now. Yet, he's still retaining the attributes of the videos that I'd mentioned before to describe a franchise to people that haven't gotten into it yet. I was honestly trying to feel for it until I started hearing a bunch of stuff that was just interpreted wrong, just wrong, or honestly I just couldn't get behind any of it. I don't want to mention everything that he does get wrong, so I just want to clear up a respective few of them. Mostly not because of what he says, more so because of what he says is actually a common thing that I do see in his area for the fans.
Dio tries to make a good first impression on his new family by mercilessly bullying his new brother Jonathan, aka JoJo, sexually assaulting and traumatizing his girlfriend, and killing his dog.
Now, obviously, this one is a joke, but if you're going to be setting this type of stuff up for people that have never actually gotten into JoJo, you're confusing them with this type of stuff. There's a bunch of jokes that you could have set up here for something going around, oh, Dio can't share, and that's in quotes because I'm not trying to spit jokes here, but I'm more so honestly just approaching everything I'm seeing here like Captain Holt,
who teaches him how to use rhythmic breathing to channel the energy signature of the sun into his fists.
Okay, Chief, a fictional story with fictional mechanics. Is it really that crazy? What ground are you standing on to make it look like it's that insane, man? Come on. Also, you go about the obvious, we don't use Hamon anymore deal, and man, what vampires are we fighting? I have to deal with this so many times with other people. Also, I'm pretty sure that you have seen Araki talk about Hamon and why he doesn't use it anymore and how it was just more so a phase around for the era that it was in. And along with that, stands as a concept, gives us so much more potential and does better for part 3 and then on.
Dio can now flash freeze anything he touches because, as we all remember from The Legend of Dracula, vampires have absolute control over their body temperature, and he can shoot his eyeball fluids out into high-pressure cutting beams. 2 more incredible powers that you should forget immediately because the show sure as hell does.
What vampires do we see after part 3? Dio also isn't even a full vampire in Stardust Crusaders, which is a huge thing that we see him talk about constantly because it affects his strength and vampiric abilities like regeneration. This wasn't even the first time that he used his freezing ability. What? Come on, man.
I mean, it's really good, but the only things that happen in the entire story that affect the plot moving forward are that Joseph crashes a few planes and loses his hand, only to have it replaced with a Nazi robot hand.
What's actually genuinely interesting is that you disregarded part 2 better than the people that disliked it, and honestly the production team that made it speedrun along with part 1. And it's honestly pretty interesting because I would have thought that you would talk about the more intricate areas of it or something like that, or meme around with it, or even talk about how cool and nuanced you think Joseph is, but this is interesting.
With magic arrows that give people ridiculously specific psychic superpowers.
Personification of a user's fighting spirit. It's a pretty cool concept, and most of the time there's symbolism to them.
Who can use his stand, Hierophant Green, to possess other people's bodies. Jotaro kicks the shit out of him and then gently plucks the vampire horror tentacle out of his head, turning him good but causing a bit of brain damage that makes him forget that he can possess people in the process.
I think that you forget that it was Kakyoin being possessed that made him do that. Plus, the utilization of Kakyoin and Kakyoin's character does not call for the use of possession, since that's not really a thing that he's about doing. If there's any consolation, he controlled Death 13, so you can have that one.
After this, I guess everyone just kind of forgets that all of these people are under mind control, so from this point on, they just straight up murder everyone they meet.
I actually have a video that goes about the connections between Dio and those that he enlists, but a lot of the time those enemy stand users here go without a spore. Most of the time it's because Dio hired them or they love Dio. For example, Tower of Grace stand user Grave Fly, nearing our first actual enemy stand user, had gone sporeless because his loyalty to Dio was already strong enough. We see that be a common thing with these enemy stand users.
Episode 12? That can't be right. Okay, so it turns out that Akira Otoishi, the guy who they've been building up as this big villain, is just a minor bad guy after all, and following that there's a whole arc where everyone just kind of fucks around doing weird bullshit while the writer tries to figure out what the plot should be. So now our heroes finally have a substantial, concrete goal to work toward, tracking down the killer. And it only took half of the entire part to get there. It's kind of impressive how bold this series is about making shit up as it goes along.
Okay. Yeah, nothing happened at all after the defeat of Akira. We just waited until Kira came. Nothing like an event meant to strengthen the estranged relationship between Joseph and Josuke, introduction to the majorly famous Rohan Kishibe, who has his own side series and multiple one-shots, or the fact that Rohan connects over into Remy, who connects over to Kira, which is how he fucking got there. Oh, I also know that someone wanted to say something on Rat, but that whole arc of mentorship between Jotaro and Josuke transfers over to the final fight where this shooting is brought back again to create neutral ground to the originally winning Kira. I think the worst part about this all is that I constantly find you here trying to throw in jabs at Araki like he's the one at fault. For how you're approaching it, let's just have Kira, a hidden serial killer who's been under the nose of Morio for a decade, which makes a lot of sense that we didn't see him, just immediately show himself in the beginning of DIU. Because that's the goal here, right? Our only goal is to go after the antagonist the whole time. That's what you wanted here. Come on. I don't want to spend any more time peeking at what he said here because I might as well just made a different video and spent the time doing so if that's the case. I probably would have ended up being over half an hour with how much he's spreading to these new people he's trying to get involved with, but that's the issue. See, you know what the best thing about this video is? It's how the video itself is what counteracts skipping parts. You're a great example that even with someone with that much time in the franchise can still be terribly wrong about what happens. I was hoping with your involvement in the franchise it would have left to at least more than a face value approach with a sense of superiority to it, but I'm not even going to try to front for the people. JoJo does have its flaws in areas, but my problem here is that you approach it like you just blew past the series. But I honestly don't want to focus on you. I actually want to thank you because this is a topic that should have been addressed a while ago, but you being the catalyst for it all is actually what gave it life. So in that case, thank you. On skipping parts, I think one of the easier lines to get into this area is, if you want to get invested, then do so. If you don't, then don't. It's as easy as that. But the premise of your video is, hey, do you want to get invested but not at the same time? And it's terrible. If people are going to jump onto whatever is new, let them be. But what is the point of a primer? If you want to get into it, why stray them away from doing so? Then you followed up to say that it's for the fans of it already, but the video does nothing for them either. Look, I know people that have gone to JoJo and approached the parts in different orders than the normal numerical one. That stuff's gonna happen. But they still got into all the parts, and once they got back into the part that they first started with, it made all the more sense on why stuff works the way that it does. The things on skipping parts is, for what reason do you have on doing it? Most of the time it's because of the hype for the respective part or whatever iteration is popping at the moment. That's the reason why you see people talking about wanting to majorly get into Kingdom Hearts 3 without actually getting into the franchise. But the thing is, regardless of the hype or not, you had time to get into the franchise, and along with that, you still can do so. I understand. People want to be able to talk to their friends about what's happening now, and it's great. That's amazing. But instead of talking to your friends about the one area of the franchise and that one respective part, if you actually get invested in all of it, you'll be able to talk about the whole franchise and have a lot more to add into the conversation. Imagine that we have someone that jumps straight into part 5 with no intention of going back. All the characters with time spent built up on them or any mechanic or cadence goes nowhere. And with the JoJo having this major theme of passing down the torch, if you just jump straight into it, you don't really have a reference for anything. Imagine that you get into the 5th season of a show, say Breaking Bad for example. I'm disregarding seasons 1 through 4 because I wanted to be able to talk about what happened in 5. But you don't have any time into that and what had happened, which gives you this empty feeling on what's actually going on, and it's not good. And with having videos like this on what Mother's Basement had made, my only knowledge of the franchise would be general events without any passion that goes into it, with a subpar explanation to everything, because the initial knowledge of the franchise that this man had was The journey of JoJo's Bizarre Adventure is a beautiful one. It's one of family, friends, powerful themes, phenomenal setting, and a lot of passion. The first thing that I mentioned of the quote from Abakio's old partner is one of many powerful things we see expanded upon in JoJo. Skipping parts means you don't experience what makes JoJo what it is, really. You don't recognize the growth of a character if you just jump straight into the final arc of an anime. You don't see what made up everything or how we got there. You miss out on so many recognizable moments and the stuff that normally bonds people of the fandom. You miss out on characters, on who they are and what they do. And from a more analytical take, you don't recognize the traits that we see run deep through Joestar blood. You miss out on major themes of previous parts. You miss out on the level of detail of this setting, which is amazing still. All of that and so much being left out. I feel like this goes with anything that you hear being enjoyed by the masses. I wouldn't tell you that it's okay to just jump straight into the Chimera Ant arc and Hunter and generalize what happens in the previous arcs. I wouldn't tell you that, oh yeah, it's totally fine to just start at My Hero Season 4 because it's hype. If you want to legitimately get into a franchise, you should be sensible enough to actually want to get into the franchise. If you just want to watch it and then drop it forever, then go ahead. No one's stopping you. If you want to go ahead and skip, again, go ahead. I'm not going to gatekeep and tell you that you're not welcome in my part, because that's ridiculous. The only thing I want to do here is tell you about how much you're missing out. Because as a person speaking to whoever is thinking about actually skipping parts, I have no control over what you do. But if you want to get into part 5 just because it's hype, I promise you that it's still going to be here while you catch up. People had all types of time to catch up on things that are out or coming soon, and most likely you'll have time because it's always going to be there. Or I don't even care if you just watch part 5 right now. Just if you do watch one of part 5, I just hope that you do go back sooner or later because there are great parts there. Plus, JoJo's at its most accessible than it's ever been, with having fully animated parts, accessible manga that you can buy, and a minimal amount of episodes for the first 2 parts, with way better pacing in the 4th part than the previous 3, but you didn't hear that from me. It's great. Now, if your end goal of watching it is to say that you did it for others, you already lost track. The journey itself is the focus at hand. If you're only here to look for results, then you already lost sight of the truth. Hey, you see there? It came full circle, right? Because that's also a thing that happens in JoJo. Also, Cream is a band. Have you ever heard of Sunshine of Your Love? It's a pretty notable guitar riff. I'm pretty sure you had to have heard it at least once. Thank you all for watching. I really do want to give him the benefit of a doubt that this is a joke video or something around those lines, but the approach of it all, I'm just really not feeling it. And I mentioned it earlier. People do speedrunning videos on anime or games and all that type of stuff and give pretty funny explanations, and those are usually fine. They're just here, and they never really do something like state that if you watch this video, then you really don't need to mess with those other things or play those games or something like that. This wasn't a case like that. Though I'm not going to lie to people. Everyone has probably had one sequel of a different area in a franchise that they didn't know was actually a sequel, but they usually go back to it. Like, I've had friends that watch Infinity War before the other Marvel movies, but after it happened and I explained stuff that they didn't understand, they usually have a huge drive to go back, and the thing just like that happens. But if you do want to see some of my analysis pieces on JoJo or JoJo characters, I'll be leaving them in the end cards. Geoff, or Jeff, if I don't know how you say your name, I'm willing to talk about this if you want to. It does seem pretty ironic that I said I'm willing to talk about this because of the video at hand. But, you know, I'm down for JoJo Speak anytime. If you like debating, I don't know if that's the type of thing that you can get into. I'm not really about that. For everyone else, just remember what I said. Enjoy anime in your way. Don't skip straight into part 7. Don't let people convince you that that's okay in comparison to everything else. Skipping a part is still skipping a part. Like, but hopefully, I'll see you all in the next one. Until then, peace out, and Godspeed.